When watching anime, we all love the main character and the immediate side characters. There's Asta, and Yuno, Deku, and Bakugo, Gon, and Killua, those types of characters. But no one brings the hype like the top group, the masters of their craft. Think of the Hashira or Gote 13 or the Yonkos. Every time they're on screen, it is a great moment. This goes for Mashle, Magic, and Muscles, my favorite anime of the season, and since it has an anime out now, I can actually talk about it and people will care, hopefully. The Divine Visionaries are stated to be the strongest magicians in the whole verse. And before the anime gets to it, well, let's see how long this video takes to edit. I wanted to rank all the Divine Visionaries and see who is the strongest, and bring hype to when they're finally animated. I also don't have an ulterior motive of ranking these characters that I will explain at the end of the video. I have no idea what you're talking about. Alright, let's get to it. The weakest magician here, appearing in a whopping 4 chapters, Sarara Hailstone. Also, these are all in the manga, so if I pronounce these wrong, I'm definitely going to. So, Sarara Hailstone, the Ice Cane. Just like her title says, Sarara has an unknown personal magic that allows her to freeze her targets. It's probably safe to assume she can manifest and control ice in general, but the extent of her powers haven't been shown yet. Wait, sorry, I got ahead of myself. I need to give a brief explanation here. In Mashle, there are 2 essential categories of magic. There's the basic magic that everyone can use, letting them fly in a broom, levitate objects, and cast simple spells. Then there is personal magic, which is a magical attribute specific to a person. This is usually what sets people apart in terms of strength. Back to Sarara, she was able to freeze Palto, the chief of centaurs, and the rest of his group in the middle of his sentence. And it wasn't just a surface level type freeze, no, they were completely frozen, which they later shattered, so it's pretty thorough. Problem is that she's not even compatible with her own personal magic, seeing that she wishes she had some warm magic like fire because she hates the cold. The Ice Cane even slipped on her own ice and started to bleed. This moment was more for a gag, but she's the only person on this list to ever slip on their own magic, so her ranking here is well deserved. Sophina Biblia, the Knowledge Cane. This is a good moment to say that these names are fantastic, like any fantasy author would love these names. Unfortunately, she also suffers from low screen time, so we don't really see much of her, but what we do see is actually really cool, and hopefully there's more in the future, because I know Mashle is ending soon. Sophina's unnamed personal magic allows her to change the opponent's words and actions. She defeated a demonic creature by changing the creature's threats towards Sophina towards itself, then essentially uncontrollably destroyed itself. It's like Inimaki's cursed speech from Jujutsu Kaisen. It seems that Sophina can make the person's words become reality, and by changing those words, she gets the best outcome for herself. We also see the Knowledge Cane is pretty good in a fight, if that fight lasted for 1 second. She blocked an attack from Deadly Disaster with only her book. This is the same person who was giving Rain Ames trouble, and you'll see later on this list how strong Rain is, so this is a pretty impressive feat. However, like I said, this fight turned in a second, as Sophina was defeated pretty easily afterwards. There's not much we know about it, but I'm assuming the less talking and words she says, the harder it is for her to fight. This is just a guess, but we do see in the aftermath of their battle, Deadly Disaster was covering her mouth. Her power seems versatile, but since we haven't seen much of her and she lost pretty spectacularly in her only real fight, I can only place her so high. The Dragon Cane, Agito Tyrone. And you know with the title Dragon Anything, that is going to be awesome. Agito may be part of the Bailey in the manga trio. Thank goodness this ends here. But he makes up for it with his weird personality and magic. You see that derpy looking thing there? That is a fearsome dragon. Okay, well, give it a second, it's a little shy. There we go. Agito's personal magic allows him to control and transform his pet dragon, which is a very destructive power. The dragon can easily destroy stone and fast enough to keep up with Domina briefly, who was giving Mash a hard time, albeit only for a small while and before Mash's training, but still impressive. Agito is a very open masochist, which has put him in many dangerous situations. After killing the Orc Chief in an instant, the Dragon Cane even says there has been 9,978 dangerous situations to be exact, meaning that he has a lot of battle experience. But his main method of attack seems to just let his dragon go wild with no sense of real strategy. This might work on simpler, straightforward enemies, but if the opponent is more sneaky or smart, it can lead to some problems. In this case, Agito's destructive capabilities outrank the versatility of Sarara's ice and Sophina's words, mostly because we've seen more of it, it seems to scale higher, and has been used against stronger opponents comparably. So, number 6. We have reached the stronger magicians in the Divine Visionaries, those that have seen more than 5 chapters of action. Finally, This choice might upset some fans, but I'll try to explain. Number 5 goes to Caldo Gehenna, the Flame King. Caldo is a fan favorite character ranking 2nd in the popularity poll, but when it comes to strength, he isn't as powerful as his fellow magicians. His personal magic allows him to create and control fire. Caldo has only shown his flame magic through his black flame enchanted sword though. This black flame is essentially Amaterasu. It burns whatever it touches until there is nothing left. Very powerful magic, but since it's concentrated into the sword, it decreases its range and viable effectiveness. But Caldo proves to be a very skilled swordsman, fighting off swarms of monsters easily. You say that these monsters were each as strong as double liners, which translated to words that make sense, means that they were pretty skilled. And Caldo sliced through them no problem. He also defeated Gabo, an innocent Zero goon who previously downed the giant Cerberus beast. His basic magic is pretty impressive too, as he used some magic attack on Mash testing his abilities. Caldo's problem isn't skill, in fact that's his biggest asset, as he trained Finn and to some degree Mash. No, his problem is power and strength. He can't really compete with someone if they can react to his sword swings and counterattack. When looking at the other people on this list, the rest can definitely block his sword with no problem, making it a contest of strength, which the Flame King can't really keep up. Not to downplay his strength of course, he was able to turn the wind-up key of life, which the only other person who could do this was, I cannot pronounce these names, Meliadol. The same person who punched someone through a concrete wall and threw a person to a flying fortress. Yeah, number 5 fits pretty well, taking all the information into account. The Immortal Cain Renentis Revol. My favorite character design-wise, like look at him, he's awesome. And he's pretty strong too. Renentis' personal magic is called Undeath, which allows him to summon and control giant dead body parts for offense and defense. We've seen him summon a giant hand to protect Mash from an attack, and since that attack was meant to kill Mash, it's safe to say that that's a pretty sturdy hand wall thing. While fighting Domina, the undead hands are fast enough to keep up with Agito's dragon. Renentis' title of the Immortal Cain isn't just for show either, as he essentially is immortal with its incredibly fast regeneration ability. He can reattach several limbs and regrow them at a fast rate. During his fight with Doom, Renentis survived and regenerated through the onslaught of attacks, even to the point of being diced. And while he was diced, the Immortal King was still able to cast his personal magic. Actually, it seems like he can remotely control his body even when his limbs are separated, like when his head was cut off he was still able to coordinate an attack between the head and the rest of his body to scratch Doom. Despite all of that, Renentis' regeneration does have its limits, as his fight with Doom proved. It seems like the regeneration is tied to his stamina, so the longer the fight goes on or the more he uses it, the slower the regeneration is. But Renentis is the first person on this list to have a summon, which is pretty exciting. It really hypes up this ranking, I think. Oh wait, you don't know what that is. Let me explain. A summon is a rare ability that only triple liners can use. It calls upon the god strength from within a wand, causing the wand to change shape and greatly increases the magician's level of magic. It also gives the wand new capabilities that differ depending on the person. For Renentis, he stabs his wand into his own chest, drawing blood, of course, summoning Thanatos, god of death. His wand turns into a giant scythe, and we only see him cast one spell with the summon, Thanatos' Inclination. This spell can only be activated once Renentis scratches the opponent and draws blood. Remember that moment? The blood from the opponent forms into chains that connect to the scythe. Not much is known about the spell since Doom destroyed it very quickly, but the Immortal Cain states that Doom's blood entered a pact with death, so it might be one of those instant kill type attacks if given enough time, but I can't say for certain. Okay, so he seems cool, but why isn't he higher on the list? He's immortal. Renentis is very capable and can definitely defeat all the people under him on this list, but everyone else is just better. Renentis' main selling point is his regeneration, which allows him to be very tenacious and sometimes reckless running through attacks. But that strategy really isn't compatible with his personal magic. You see, we've only seen Renentis use those giant undead hand things at range, and even though they are pretty durable, they haven't been shown to be that strong. So he can either go full on with the undead hands for going his regeneration tactic, or go head first and not use his personal magic. It's like giving a hulking barbarian a bow and arrow. Like no matter how good they are with that weapon, you're not giving them the chance to fully thrive. And it could be the opponents Renentis have faced were just bad matchups, but he couldn't keep up with Doom, barely scratching him after getting cut down multiple times. Where the stronger Divine Visionaries were facing Doom at 50, 60, even 70%, Renentis was barely holding it together with a somewhat trying Doom. You could tell this because he didn't even give what percentage of power he was using. The Immortal Cain is definitely strong and can think on his toes, but the others just have better long range abilities to wear down his regeneration and the strength to deal with him in an up close fight. It is definitely likely that Renentis can do damage and even use that blood pact spell, but since we don't know much about it, we can't use that to determine his current strength. Rain Ains, the Sword Cane. The stoic older brother trying to protect his sibling but is pushing them away. Yeah, that old trope. Out of all the Divine Visionaries, Rain is the one we actually know the most about. Funny enough, Rain was actually never meant to be a Divine Visionary. That position was supposed to go to Margaret McRone, but she didn't participate in the tournament, so he's a runner-up, basically. However, Rain definitely earned his place there. His personal magic, Partisan, allows him to summon swords at will. The range and maximum number of swords he can summon is not known yet. But these weapons are incredibly powerful, able to cut through stone like it was butter, and even cut through flesh as seen with fighting Delizaster. The swords can vary in size, being about the same size as a regular sword, to being big enough for Rain to ride on, to a towering weapon. The Sword Cane's method of attack is usually just summoning a bunch of swords and flying them straight at their opponent with their blistering speeds and strength. That is usually enough to finish them off. He does have some control of how the swords configure themselves, like when he made a cage out of swords around Finn. He also has shown some skilled swordsmanship when facing against a 50% Doom. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Rain is surprisingly durable. He's not immortal like Renekton, but the Sword King can hold his own. He endured multiple hits from Delizaster, who at this point was overpowering Rain, destroying his swords with ease. When Delizaster summoned his new wand and did an attack that was strong enough to destroy the surroundings, Rain was able to get back up, even though he was looking really rough. Rain also has the ability to summon his wand's full potential with Ares, God of War. With this, his wand turns into a black trident, giving his overall magic a boost, making a low-level spell as powerful as a high-level second spell. Rain was able to push back Margaret's spell with just his magical pressure alone. In this heightened state, the Sword King was able to use Black Partisan, a spell that shapes black magic into a form of sword and attacks. Black Partisan was able to cleave the earth with seemingly no strain on Rain's part. But we have seen Rain push to his limits. During his fight with Delizaster, Rain would have definitely died if it wasn't for Finn's healing magic. The problem with that battle is that he wasn't just being healed. It was also stated that Finn was also giving Rain some of his magic, making him even stronger. So that victory can't be all attributed to Rain. That being said, Rain was able to barely keep up with a 50% Doom right after the Delizaster fight, meaning at full power the Sword King could have done a little better. Usually this is the part where I justify why the Magician is not ranked higher, but do I need to? Rain was part of the last line of defense against Doom, only losing to some of the series' strongest characters. In every other fight, Rain has shown superior strength, speed, and strategy, allowing him to get the win with no problem really. Rain could absolutely defeat the people that have been listed already, but the two other Divine Visionaries have proven they can hit harder and take more than our Sword King. The Desert Cane, Orter Madol. So basically, take Gaara from Naruto, Shippuden, very important, and add some glasses, and that's Order. Order! Oh my god, I just got his name and his personality. Okay, this makes sense. The Desert Cane's personal magic, Sands, allows him to create and manipulate, you guessed it, sand. The flexibility of sand makes Orter incredibly strong. The Desert King was able to react and block multiple of Mashle's attacks. The sand is durable enough to block attacks from a 50% Doom and even briefly restrain him at 60%. The sand is a great shield, but more than that, it is a mighty spear. The sand can easily shatter rocks, creating huge holes in caverns multiple times. If compressed enough, the sand can even cut steel. Order was able to defeat the Majin, a magical species with immense strength who tower over mountains. By looking at the aftermath of the fight, Order Rengoku'd all of the Majin, seemingly with his sand. Wait, did I say all the Majin? Yeah, because he single-handedly defeated 6 of these monsters. I know it sounds like I'm just fanboying over Order, and I am. This Divine Visionary is leagues above our number 3 spot, and I only talked about his defense and offense. The Desert Cane is incredibly fast, being able to get behind Mash in an instant. And in that same moment, Order formed a sand spike without Mash noticing until the very end. He reacted and blocked Feynman's invisible card attack. All of this just to say that there's even more. Order has a summon. At first we don't know the full name or appearance of this, but we have seen a spell used in this mode. The Desert King was able to turn his whole surrounding into sand and attack every spot in this new sand, and draw Feynman in using quicksand, ending the fight. Honestly, I don't know what to say. Order is just one of those characters that show up, absolutely decimate everyone, and then leave, kinda like Escanor from the 7 Deadly Sins. Order's skill, strength, and intelligence puts him in a league of his own. You can definitely argue for the Desert King to be placed in the number 1 spot, but that Divine Visionary has some feats over Order, so it's hard to just give him the win. After fighting Doom and using almost all of his magic, Order was still able to pull out some incredibly strong attacks like destroying rubble and creating a chasm, so even on his last legs he pulls through, but this is nothing compared to my favorite character personality wise, and the strongest Divine Visionary, Rio Grants. Ryo is just a good guy. Like, he didn't care that Mash couldn't use magic. He was like, if you're strong, then you're good. He views being handsome as helping those weaker than himself, being honest, and never giving up. Like, how could you hate him? Ryo's personal magic is called lights, which allows him to make and manipulate rays of light. Don't let the word light trick you. We're not talking about flashlights here. Ryo's magic is strong enough to cut through buildings and slice giants. Remember all the crazy strength of sand I talked about earlier? Well, the Light King takes it to a new level. Ryo's light cut through a darkness spell that took the form of multiple massive meteor-sized spheres, and seeing the destruction of the spell, it could definitely be comparable to actual meteors. Here's where things get even crazier. Ryo had a 60% Doom completely on the defensive, with his rays of light outpacing Doom's attacks and even burning him. Other attacks previously from Rain, Order, Finn, Dot, and Lance didn't even scratch him. But within 10 seconds of joining the fight, Ryo was able to hurt Doom. This ray of light onslaught forced Doom to go up to 7%, and even after that, Ryo was able to make him bleed. Even though he was injured, the Light King was able to keep up with 70% Doom, like fully attacking and even dodge a strike from this Boros wannabe. He does have a summon, Hyperion, God of Light, which is stated by him in Order to be the strongest display of magic in the world. With Hyperion, Ryo used Genesis Crisis, a giant ball of light that was destroying everything around it. Sadly, it was not strong enough to kill Doom, as he easily destroyed the attack after going to 80%. Ryo isn't satisfied with just strength alone. With his magic and other abilities, he is very well rounded. Ryo has an unnamed defensive spell that was used on citizens to protect them from falling fragments of that meteor attack. He used a variation of this spell when first meeting Doom, protecting him from a full left hook. Even without his light magic, Ryo was able to endure one of his powerful attacks being deflected back at him, and getting punched in the face and stomped on by an 80% Doom. I'm not sure if this is a durability feat, but I wanted to mention it here. While Mash was training, there was this special room. In this room, the gravity increased exponentially every 10 minutes, so the gravity is twice as strong after 10 minutes, 3 times after 20, and so on. Mash was shown to be struggling a bit in this room, where Ryo was perfectly fine just standing there. It wasn't stated how long they were both in the room, but it was definitely safe to say more than 20 minutes. So the Light King is totally fine in times 3 gravity, which is very impressive. I say the best category for last, speed. Ryo was able to dodge Doom's attacks and counterattack, so that already proves his speed. While fighting the giants, he attacked them so fast they are still fighting without realizing all their fellow giants were getting sliced up. Remember that speed feat from Order when he instantly moved behind Mash and started to attack? Yeah, Ryo was there too. In the mere moment of Order's attack, Ryo was able to get behind the Desert King and stop the whole situation. Now, this is the biggest question that takes Ryo from being the strongest to being unstoppable. Can the Light King's attacks actually move at light speed? The problem with having such a massive power scale with Mash, Doom, and characters like that is the fact that it makes you think how other characters lesser than that compare. You see, thanks to Doom, we learn that Ryo can actually change the angle and speed of his light attacks. And in physics, we know that light travels in straight lines, but it's possible to change the trajectory. That, however, is only through an obstacle in the way, a phenomenon known as diffraction. But this is anime, so science is not always the main focus here. This is Dr. Stone, so let's forget about the changing angles. There is one more thing though that makes the light speed idea questionable. His attacks have a force behind them. Ryo's light is able to push back Doom and protect people from falling fragments. Light, well more specifically the photons that make light up, do not have a mass. Bear in mind, I'm not a scientist, so take my findings with a grain of salt, but the popular equation force equals mass times acceleration shows that in order to have a force, in order to interact with an object physically, the thing needs to have both mass and acceleration. You know his attacks are fast. That's the acceleration part. But light in real life doesn't physically attack us. When we go outside in the sun, we're not wearing suits of armor or anything like that. Ryo's attacks have a force that can push people and destroy buildings. Doom deflected a light attack towards Finn and Ryo was able to jump in and take the hit. If it does move at light speed, it's a big deal. If not, this is still admittedly impressive. Characters in Mashle have the greatest eyesight in all of anime because they are able to see all the crazy fast movements Mash does. That's more for us, the audience, to understand what happened, but it means just because they can see the move doesn't mean it's slow and not light speed. But I'm getting off topic. Let me know what you guys think of his speed in the comments down below. And there it is, the most complete, correct, no mistakes list of the Divine Visionaries I have ever made. Side note, this is the only list of the Divine Visionaries I have ever made. Let me know if you think the rankings should be changed and just your thoughts on Mashle in general. And if Ryo is light speed, it really makes a good argument for Asta versus Mash. More on that later though. Alright, peace.